Hey folks, Jake and I are back to finally shoot part 3 of the Russ and Tori Taff Bell Buckle Weekend videos that I'm currently doing. Didn't mean to take so much time off, but life kind of happened, and actually tried to shoot this a while back, and just had some issues with the camera and running out of space and all that good stuff. So we're gonna pick it up and try to get through this today. So where did we leave off? When we left off last time, Dave and I had kind of wrapped up the afternoon. We had eaten ourselves silly and gone through antique shops and went back to the Airbnb, just rest for a minute. Headed back over to the convention center because dinner started at 6 and the concert started at 7. So we got back to the banquet hall and met up with Andrew, and we found a seat that we were all comfortable with, and then the Browns joined us, Bruce and Mary. So we had a little crew there, and we were sharing a table, I believe, with some folks from Wisconsin. Nice, very nice people. Dinner was outstanding. It was catered by the Bell Buckle Cafe, and it was decorated incredibly well, and the food was just outstanding. So yeah, so we had dinner. Great conversation. Really appreciated each person in the party. Then we got our seats for the concert. And before the concert started, I walked to the back because I knew that they were starting to put the stuff up for the silent auction. And I wanted to see what was going on as far as the auction was concerned. They had a bunch of different items that they were auctioning, and all of the money was going to benefit the Mark Lowry's church in Houston, which had been hit hard by the hurricane. So it was all money for a good cause. I watched the video Saturday morning, and I knew that they were going to there were 3 albums back there, and any of the 3 would have been great to have. Tori Taff, Russ's wife, had gone to their storage locker and pulled a sealed copy of Russ's second solo album, Metals, a sealed copy of his third solo album, the self-titled, Russ Taff, and she pulled out a third album, which was a sealed copy of an album he did with his very first group, Sounds of Joy. Any of the 3 would have been great to have, but I was most interested in the Sounds of Joy. One, because I had never seen it before. Didn't know that it existed. And here it was coming out of Russ's storage locker. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, if you're a fan of a big musician, I mean, and you're getting a sealed copy of a rare album out of their personal collection, it really doesn't get much better than that. So I went back and nobody had bid yet, so I put down the opening bid. I was kind of back there talking to a young lady that was running Russ's booth. Turns out her name is Crystal Lynn, and I didn't know it, but she's the administrator for the Facebook page, Russ Taff's Friends. I didn't find that out till I actually got home, and so that's cool. She is a huge Russ Taff fan. Loves him immensely, and I guess has developed a relationship and works for them whenever she can, whenever she can get to wherever he's performing, running the booth and that sort of thing. So anyway, I talked to her, had some good conversation, and was expressing to her how much I was interested in that album. And so time rolled around, and it was time for the concert. So I went back up and sat down. And the first up was Bonnie Keene. Bonnie, I guess, has known the Taffs for a long, long time, and are quite good friends. And so she opened. Very, very funny lady, very charming, and great vocalist. She did a number of songs. One was a duet with Russ, which they did together, and then she also did a version of Kumbaya, which sounds kind of hokey just saying it, but she really had a nice arrangement of the song and kind of got into the meaning of the words, and that was very, very cool. Then after Bonnie sang, then Russ came up and had the band behind him was very good. I wish I knew more of their names because they were all so talented. I don't know who the guitarist or the drummer was, and I don't know who one of the backup singers was. Bonnie, of course, went over and sang backup. But there was another lady there, and she had quite a great voice, and I don't know who she was. Now, I did know two of the other guys. Larry Halls played with him on keyboards for a long time, and Ron Hemby. And Hemby he sang in the Imperials. He played bass. He might have played bass when he was with the Imperials too. I don't know. I never saw them live, and I'd have to look at some credits on the albums that he was there to see what he played. But he played bass and did lead on he did a Don Henley cover. And great singer. He's probably my second favorite Imperial singer, except for Taff. He sang on albums like This Year's Model and Free the Fire. Great stuff. So Russ kicked off with some of the old Imperial stuff, and the band sounded great. He did some of the stuff from some of his earlier albums when he first got started, like Walls of Glass and Metals, and so at that point it got me thinking. Well, yeah, it got me thinking about the days when I used to sing in church. It's been a long time. I probably haven't, except for singing at my mother's funeral. I probably hadn't sang publicly in 20 years. But when I was in my late teens through my late 20s, I sang quite a bit, and just doing special music here and there. My church doesn't really do special. The church I attend now doesn't really do special music, so I don't. But back in the day, I really used to do a lot of it. So being that these videos, this channel is kind of devoted to mainly to music collection. I don't really have albums to show, but I do have some of the music, some of the sheet music to show. Back in the day, when Russ, for those who are unfamiliar with Russ, which might be some of the guys in the VC, he started out with Sounds of Joy, but didn't really become nationally known until he joined the Imperials, and then they blew up big. Michael O'Mardian was producing them, and they were having they had some major hit albums like Heed the Call and Priority and albums like that. Now, so when I discovered Russ was back in probably, I guess, 83, 84. I was probably about 17 years old. I graduated in 84, so it was probably maybe even summer of 83. Walls of Glass had come out. My youth pastor, we were going on a choir tour, and ironically, well, coincidentally, I should say, because the Rambos were there, or Dottie Rambo and her husband Donnie McGuire were there. We were actually going on a kind of a youth choir tour for a musical that we were performing called Bright Morning Star, something of that nature. Anyway, the Reba and Donnie, I believe, wrote it. Messiah, Bright Morning Star, and Reba Rambo and Donnie McGuire helped write it. So that's where I was becoming familiar with their music. They were guests at this weekend. So anyway, when we got on the bus, Mike Osborne, my youth director, had recorded Walls of Glass to a cassette tape. He had the album and he recorded it to a cassette tape, and I borrowed it. I took one listen to it, and it was they practically had to pry it out of my hands to get it back. I played that thing over and over and over again. I was just blown away by Russ's voice. So the connections there are kind of weird because we're on a Rambo, doing a Rambo musical, Rambo McGuire musical. I'm listening to Russ Taff, and it's all such a small world because at that time we had Allison Durham Spear singing in our youth group. She was a couple years. I was 17. She was maybe 18, 19. So she has a tremendous voice, and some of those songs have been performed by Sandy Patty, and she could do them. She could hit all those high notes brilliantly. So I say that because Allison Durham Spear, I've seen her. It's weird. I haven't seen her since I was a teenager, but except when I watch some of Russ's Gaither videos, and they'll cut to members of the Gaither family, the members of the choir that's singing in the back. And a lot of times Allison is in there. And it's just kind of weird, no? Oh, well, hey, there's Allison. Oh, okay, that's cool. So, anyway, to say all that, I feel like I've kind of got off track. So we're talking about Russ's early stuff. So I went back when I started singing, and Russ, of course, is my greatest. He was my musical hero more than I. Even back then, I listened to a lot of people, but especially in Christian music, I wasn't aware of who a lot of people were. But I knew Russ, and he was the man. And so I sang, and he did a lot of great songs. So I wanted to do a lot of those songs at church and at whatever church I was singing at. And so let's get into the collection here before this gets too crazy. All right. So the first book, the Imperials collection. This is a really thick book. It has most of the stuff from Russ's tenure in the band. Be Still My Soul, Finish What You Started, Eagles Song, I'm Forgiven, Let Jesus Do It For You, Trumpet of Jesus. By the way, they did Trumpet of Jesus at the concert. I thought it was really cool. There was a young man who was interested in singing, and Russ got him up there and had him do Trumpet of Jesus with him, and I just thought, that's so cool to be encouraging young people to do music. But so this is the book that I would use when I wanted to do stuff from Russ's Imperials days. The next book is the Russ Taff Songbook. This book, I guess, was put out about the time Walls of Glass, his first CD, came out. Looking at the songs that are in the book, a lot of them are from Walls of Glass, but there are also some Imperials tunes. I think the book mainly focuses on songs that Russ and Tori wrote together. And so because it wasn't just strictly a Walls of Glass, I guess they decided not to just call it the Russ Taff Songbook. And of course, there you see him with the great hair and the Fu Manchu mustache. Great picture. Then I have from his second album, Russ Taff Medals. And this is just songs from that album. I don't think I sang much out of this, if any, because a lot of it was synthesizer oriented. I don't think it, translated to just piano very well. If I were going to do any song off here, it might be Silent Love. That might work. Just piano, I don't know. Then I've got the book from his that has the this is from his third album, which is the self-titled Russ Taff. Very U2-esque, Joshua Tree looking cover. And I don't know that I've done much off of this one either. I think, this one, I probably have picked some of these up just because it's Russ. But most of this, I don't think you could perform just piano. Not like his early stuff. This one may be a little bit more. This is The Way Home, which was his, I believe, his fourth album. Some of it might translate to piano, just piano, alright, like I Cry. But this was a fantastic album. This album, the album that this music's pulled from, the way home, I was looking at a list of the top 100 contemporary Christian albums of all time. This was ranked number 11. Of course, I didn't make the list, or it'd probably be higher. So those are the books that I used. when I was singing too, I often used things like this. This is an accompaniment track. This is for a song called Your Love Stays With Me. Probably my favorite song to sing of his. It came from his Greatest Hits album. It was the one original song that came out on this particular Greatest Hits album. It was originally written by Gary Chapman. It was recorded, Gary Chapman wrote it and recorded on his country album, Everyday Man. I got an accompaniment track back then for it and was singing with it, but then something happened to that track while I was trying to figure out what to do, because I really loved doing that song. Then Russ came out with this version, and I started doing it. Interesting note, when I was singing at a church here in Louisville, they asked me to do special music. I did this song. I guess I've always kind of put my toe up to the line of what might be acceptable for a worship service. I thought this was a great song. I thought it was perfect for a worship service. After I sang this at this church that I was attending, a deacon came up to me in the choir room when the service was over, said, "Man, that was bluesy." I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And they never asked me to sing again, so I haven't ever sang again. All right, so that covers that. And like I said, the concert was amazing. One thing that I forgot to show from the bag, in my last video, I showed the contents of a bag. Russ recorded 2 songs for us and put it on this CD. Precious Lord, Take My Hand, and Going Home. Both great cuts. I have ripped this to my phone already and listened to them quite often. That was a very cool gift. Also, that evening concert had me in such a mood to hear some of his early Imperial stuff that I went and dug out this CD. It's a 2-disc compilation. Contains more than just the stuff Russ did with the Imperials. Ron actually sings some of the songs on here, but Ron Hemby sang "Devoted to You," "Free the Fire," and "Power of God." I know "Devoted to You" is such a gorgeous song. Anyway, made me get out this so that I can rip it to my phone and listen to some of the early tracks. Bought this probably for around $15 when it came out, back late 90s, I believe. These days, I think it runs about $60. So I'm glad this is still in my collection, because most of the early Imperials albums that I have on vinyl, and so I can't really rip it to my phone. I haven't learned. That's one thing I have not learned to do yet, is how to make MP3s for my albums. Okay. And then, so after the concert, I went back and talked to Bonnie Keene. She was such a charming lady and very sweet. At first, I was digging in my wallet and I had receipts from things I had spent, come on the way in and everything, and I asked her if she could take a debit card, and she was going to give me
one of my CDs free. But then I dug around and found some more money. But I thought that was nice of her, because she wasn't really. I don't think they were paying her to come. I think she was just setting up her booth. So that was all she was making, and so that was very sweet of her. Anyway, I picked up Bonnie Keene, Marked for Life. This is the album that has the duet with Russ. I believe that song is You Will Cover Me. So I picked this one up. It's I believe this is a 97 recording. I'm not seeing a date right away, but I believe that I read it was a 97 recording. Late 90s, I do know that. Then I picked up another album, or another CD, Evidence of Love. I had her sign this one. I was a little surprised. I thought Kumbaya would have been on this one, being the newer one, but it wasn't. So when I got home, I did a little digging, and here's the back of it. Another good picture of her. So I did a little digging. She has another album. It is called God of Many Chances. And it's a little bit of a mystery. I've seen that particular album with two different covers. And I'm not sure if there's any difference except for the cover or not. It looked to me, from all the information I could see, that one was pressed in 2003, which I believe this is a 2006 recording, which would put it out a couple years before this one. But then so that's the darker cover, and that cover actually looks like it's an independent release. Then there's a cover that's more along, the photography looks a little better, kind of like this cover, and it's a 2007. The best I can tell, there's no difference in the track listings, but I'm having a hard time finding anything that would definitely say what the track listings for either album is. I believe that it's a 12-song album, but it's just hard to tell. So I picked up those two, and then I picked up this. This is an EP. Of course, Bonnie Keene is in the group First Call. First Call's been around as a vocal group that's been around since the mid-'80s. This is their most recent EP. A lot of songs on here that I've already heard. Mighty to Save and Christ Alone, Wade in the Water. Great stuff. Picked this up. It was like, it wasn't very expensive. It looks like it was hand pressed, because it's just kind of on a regular kind of skinny little jewel case, not even really a regular jewel case. So that's what I picked up Saturday night, and that kind of concludes Saturday night. And it's, wow, this is a 30-minute part 3. I will be shooting part 4, the final part, hopefully today, and getting it up quickly. And I appreciate you I appreciate anybody watching these videos. I kind of do them. I do them for conversation and for, hopefully, for folks that find this kind of stuff interesting. But I also kind of do them for myself, if nothing else, to work through some things. But anyway, I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.